Hey Melanated family, I want to talk about black community cohesion. It's something we don't currently have because we haven't fought in that way in this country. We've been naive enough to pin the hopes and dreams of our emancipation on our oppressors. There is no cat that will ever free any mouse when he is hungry. A mouse is a resource, and we are a resource. On the one hand, we're a great resource in that when the Windrush generation were invited over, there were depleted ranks of men. And if you watch a documentary called Coffee Coloured Nation, you heard a man say, just because you have people erect a shed in your back garden, doesn't mean you want them to move in. If you want to understand the psyche of the true Englishman, the same Englishman that voted out, the same Englishman you're relying on to move you forward and help you after you've seen African Americans come from 8 years of relying on a black president, that is the true psyche. The same way you see a fly in your bathroom and you don't know what's going on, it's summer and there's another fly and there's fruit flies, you kill them because you don't desire to share a space with them. So there's a mindset that you have. They're not supposed to be in your place. Now, we similarly can't say that we're going back to the West Indies or Africa, because there we're suppressed. Because you can create any narrative here, as we saw with Iraq, as we saw with Afghanistan, and create false flag wars and end up in the country. And then we've got their foot on our neck. So what we need to do here is organize, and we have no choice about that. Now, I didn't write this, I didn't come up with this. Dr. Claude Anderson put down a blueprint for us called Powernomics. It runs from education, through business, through the justice system, through politics, and it ties them all together cohesively. But there is a starting place. There's always a starting place. So understand the way that any community functions. It functions from a strong 5 to 10% who are economically in charge. They create wealth. Businesses create wealth. Businesses create jobs. Businesses are taxable income. Businesses create a surplus which they buy with. So whether you are providing a service or goods, you have purchasing power. Businesses and our businesses need to start pooling our resources on an organizational level. We need to work with bodies in every single area where we need these solutions. The areas, media, we need to control our image. We need to control our representation. Every single community, every single culture has a duty to preserve, uphold, and promote who they are. Everybody celebrates Chinese New Year because they uniquely understand, promote, preserve, and uphold their culture. We don't. There's something about us that makes us scared to be black in public. And that is another thing that we need to start doing. We need a code of conduct amongst ourselves. We don't need to talk to everybody about what we're doing. And as a people, we're very vocal. And we speak to our oppressors about everything we do, so they're a step ahead. There used to be a show called Tomorrow's World where they tell you about police technology. They cut that. Now everything is a surprise to you, and you're going to find out the hard way. They need to find out when we execute what we have been doing behind the scenes. The first of these areas is education. Because you don't control your children's education, unfortunately, your children don't receive an education. Now, I've had businesses since I was 18 years old, and I have bought supplies from a lot of different people. And I had this conversation with a Jewish man who was 70 at the time. He just celebrated his 70th birthday. And he turned around and he said, oh, but education is this and education is that and blah, blah, blah. I said, that's because you received an education. You received an education from your people within your interests that furthered their interests. I received an indoctrination. My people receive an indoctrination. And indoctrination doesn't work for you. It works for somebody else. So become a unit in a cog which doesn't serve you, which will lead you possibly to have a fulfilled career, possibly not. But in the beginning, you're definitely going to have more month than money. And as your lifestyle grows with your career and your family, you're probably going to stay on that treadmill of having more month than money, which is where credit comes in. And then credit kind of commands that you stay in the position you're in. So you are taught something that doesn't serve you. We are taught from a Eurocentric perspective what doesn't serve our children. So if we're constantly countering what they're being taught at school, at some point they're going to experience cognitive dissonance, because a teacher said this, now you say that. They're going to fight you. There is no need to have a fight within our own homes. So the first point we need to take control of is our children's education. For some it's homeschooling, but when you're talking about the wider execution, it's not feasible for everybody to homeschool. And to be fair, every single borough receives funds in our name which are allocated to us. So understanding that we are betraying our children by not giving them a true education and sense of who they are and what they're capable of. What do? Every single area that I'm going to talk to you about as a focal organisation at the forefront. So for education, the Black Child Agenda, led by Cheryl Phoenix, does all of this work. They advocate for children in schools. So if you're an educator, if you work in local authority and you have a clue about what is going on with education and you are black, you are obligated to cooperate with the advancement of these programs, because they advocate for you, for your children directly. So no matter what position you're in, you're still going to be facing your battles within schools with your own children. So the Black Child Agenda, I would recommend, would be one of the first campaigns for us to get behind en masse. Because all the areas that I'm going to talk about, from education, through media, through the justice system, through politics to economics, start with education. Education is the first, is the foremost, because it imprints on your child who they're going to be for the first quarter of their life. How confident they may be, how functional they may be. So the Black Child Agenda is the first campaign that I would recommend that we all get on behind en masse. So there's a reason that I recommended education first, because it starts with the children. So after you've realized the control of your own education, you move to the media, the control of your images. I want us to be thinking about, first and foremost, the things that we can control right now as a community. So when I mention the Black Child Agenda, we can contribute to every single thing they're doing right now. So from local authority through to educators, youth workers, social workers, to be informing what they should be doing and how you can help. Most importantly, have a plan. Don't attack them with questions, attack them to provide. The second phase and tier that we need to attack and take control of is our image, the media. The reason that I talk about all of these areas is because our oppression is based on more than one thing. White supremacy doesn't just come from police attacks, the judicial system. It's a five-pronged approach in this attack. It's economic, it's educational, it is political, and it is the justice system, where we receive disproportionately harsher sentences. There's an entire justice business based around our people. So it starts with the image that is presented of us. Fear is perceived when people see black men. I've worn a £700 suit and had £1,500 in my pocket, in my money clip, and seen a white woman who I know has got credit card debt in her purse, clench her purse because I'm walking past her. That's crazy. She's supposed to look at me and say hi. That is based on the fact that we're not countering the images that are being put out about us. So I'm now talking to media makers on the next tier. In terms of us holding ideas and fighting and saying, I don't want you to steal this, it's time to collaborate and share, because we're going to create mass media entities that are powerful and informative and enrich us. That is the next phase. We don't have Sky, we don't have Bloomberg, we don't have News Corp, we don't own news gathering agencies. So we need to create something right now which is mass media and covers various continents with correspondence. That is an action that needs to be executed. Now, I don't speak about all of these things in theoretical terms. Behind the scenes, they are happening and they are going on. Who I am calling are media makers, not with questions, but with solutions to bring to the table and add to the mix. It's very important that we control our image, because anybody else that speaks about us needs to be answered straight away. They need to be countered straight away, and they need to be educated. What we provide with the images that we create are an education for the masses. Now, the same way that they look at us when they say, if they miss us, they get our children. We have the opportunity to do. Black culture is the prevalent culture. We have their children, make no mistake. When you see children with their eyes closed on the bus, bopping, listening to music, or on the tube, or on the road, they are listening to us. White boys and girls, Asian boys and girls, and everybody else listens to us. We are the pop culture. Now we need to make that across the board. So politically, in terms of the view of us, we need to inform their children. But we are informing our people and bringing our people to one position. When you have times of polling, we're all over the place and we're having different conversations. We are not individuals. It is a fallacy, because we're experiencing the same thing across this country, across the globe. It's exactly the same. The oppression stories are the same. Our children are being suspended at a much higher rate. They're going into special education at a much higher rate. They're being expelled at a much higher rate, and they're being criminalized at a much higher rate. So we don't have the luxury of intellectual masturbation. So the first thing we need to do is control our images, so that one, our children are informed by the successes that we're having every day, because those stories aren't being told. And secondly, the businesses and the individuals who are operators are aware that they're not operating in isolation. And if we do this on an organizational level, and we're working with a body that enables us to do better and creates joined up solutions for that black business community, we know that it creates solutions for the wider community. Governments don't generate one single penny. They tax. A not-for-profit advocate body can take donations, which are tax write-offs. That's the whole point of not-for-profits. So now we're talking about solutions. So when you're dealing with a media that informs your people, that informs business makers, it informs lay people, and it informs children, because make no mistake, when you're watching that TV, your children are watching you and they're learning, which is why I talk about education first, as opposed to indoctrination, which happens that doesn't benefit any of us. The third tier is economics. So we start with the businesses, because businesses generate the vast majority of the GDP. So when we bring it down to a macro level and we're dealing with us, they do, but they don't for us, because we're not aware of them. Even the government aren't aware of the vast majority of our businesses. So we need to be aware of them on an organizational level. if we have a not-for-profit organisation and there's taxable income, we need to be donating that taxable income to an organisation that benefits us, that advocates for us, that creates organisational movement for and on our behalf. So as a business, what I need is consumers. I need you to come towards me and spend with me, because I know that then I have the money to put back and do work on behalf of people who look like me and my community. There is an organisation that is forming now, working from banking through advocating, through education and promoting our businesses to our consumers directly on a national level. Now that works for us. It's a solution, because what taxable income does is it answers all of these questions, from education through media, because there's money to sponsor shows, there's money to pull into a school. If a building was found, the money from an organisation like this can start off the deposits for a freehold building, and then you start to capture the money on a local level with a local representative who pulls all of the money that we're entitled to into that building. So economics is very important, and us pooling our money as business owners, but not just our money, because what you find is unique about people who've run businesses is that they're self-sufficient and they understand solutions. They're solution makers. When you've got great problem-solving skills, you're obligated to employ those past what you need for yourself. And in the first instance, it's your family. In the second instance, it's your community. So when you pool resources with other organizations and companies, that comes from ideas all the way through to the money that we need. Money is the lifeblood. It's the river that charts the success of any people. So you could name any race and you see that they have an economic pool. But there has to be a code of conduct within our economics, because there's no such thing as a river without banks. Every river has banks, the guidelines that chart the flow of that river. The river must work for us. Our economics must work for us. No man-made law can be broken, but every single one of the 1% circumvent man-made laws. A man is in front of you. You cannot pass him. You're going to have a war. What you can do is go to the left or the right of that man. This is what you do with tax money, which is why you have an accountant. It is not to add up your bills. It's to let you know where you can get tax relief. And if you can write off your money to benefit your community, that is what you should be doing. So when we pool our ideas and we pool our resources at an organizational level, we're now teaching each other how to en masse make tax donations to an organization that advocates for us, for our interests. That's how people move forward. They do things that advocate for them. We do things for no reason. We buy newspapers for no reason. We vote for no reason. We watch TV for no reason. We speak for no reason. And we take our children to a school which does not benefit them in the long run for no reason. And we need to tighten up on that. So in the economic department, which is the most powerful because it informs every single other area. So now if we have money that we donate through taxable income to an organization who will pull all of that tax resource and pull it into a local councillor. Change is made at local election level, not at a national polling day to bring in a leader. It is made at local election stage. All we need to do as businesses is field a local candidate that will execute our interests when they're in the local authority, because there is a portion of money that is set aside for us which we have never accessed, and the people that access it tell us how it's going to be. When we have a councillor in there, we tell them how it's going to be, but there's no need to even have that communication anymore. because at this stage, now we execute what we have always supposed to have executed. Schools, justice services for our young people, where an intervention comes much quicker than them getting a youth custody. Entrepreneurial schemes from our businesses that go all the way through to university scale. These are solutions. I talk about solutions a lot. In terms of an economic solution, there's an organization called Transition of the Black Pound. Their role is to pool the resources of businesses. It's to guide consumers towards black businesses. Black business earns money. It generates income. It employs people. They sell. They buy from suppliers. They pay rents. All of this benefits us if we use each other as source. So when we are pooling resources, that is taxable income. A not-for-profit organization can take our taxable income. Why would we pay it to a government that doesn't benefit us? The entire point of accountants is to guide our money to benefit us, to save us money in terms of taxation. But where we can't, and we're going to be taxed, let's donate that money as businesses to not-for-profit organizations. The Black Child Agenda is a not-for-profit organization. Let's enable the advancement of our children's education by us. That organization is set up to advocate for black children. The transition of the Black Pound is set up to advocate for black business and guide black consumers towards black businesses. So let's do things that benefit our interests and grow our interests. It's a time to become mercenary because we don't have the luxury of sleeping. We need to leave a legacy to the next generation before they inherit exactly what they have in the United States, which is black people being a permanent underclass and having a prison, a pipeline from schools to prison. There has to be something in between. This is the unique limited period that we have to initiate all of that. So to grow our businesses, to grow our incomes, and the share of the Black Pound that we spend. Let's have an organization that guides our consumers towards our businesses. That is how we become powerful. And that leads us neatly into the next area, which is politics. Let's field a candidate that benefits us as black people with a black agenda. I've spoken a lot about our solutions on an organizational level. So as we move from economics into politics, if you'd studied political science in university, you're probably thinking about the major parties. Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem. You may be as crazy as to think you can make your way on the stage being a voice within UKIP or the Green Party and fringe parties. But did you ever think that you'd be able to create solutions for your own people? Through transition of the Black Pound, we want to guide businesses to be able to fund and fuel local candidates. Local authorities are great because it's where change is made. It's where change is made to legislation. It's where change is made on an educational level, on a legal level, in terms of dealing with the police, the judiciary. Local authority is a great thing, and it is accessible to us. It's where we communicate directly with the people on the ground. So what we would want to do by pooling our resources is field local candidates to create local solutions. Every single borough receives money in our name. We want access to that money. We want access for education. We want access for the interventions in judiciary for our young people, because long before they receive a custody, there's a raft of measures. There's an entire criminal justice industry based around our people. Social workers, youth offenders, all of these people receive money where they have close personal supervision orders long before they receive a custody. We should be receiving, utilizing, and executing that money for the benefit of our people. This is what any community does. They take charge of the funds that are put forward in their name and from taxation that comes from our pound. So there's no reason why it shouldn't benefit us. So the first thing that is on our agenda is to execute that pound in fielding a councillor to local authority. Local authority is the easiest way for us to impact our communities. There is something called, there is a joined up thinking that happens within local authorities. It takes place between the fire brigade, the police, education, and any local justice organisations, so probation officers and all the rest. And they have a strategy. It's a local community strategy that involves us, that we have no part in and no voice in. Don't get it twisted. Our people work within all of those organisations for an agenda that has nothing to do with us. We need to field local candidates to every single borough, but that starts with one borough and a number of successful businesses within that borough that fund that candidate and their campaign on our behalf, so that we can enable our people to vote as a bloc. Once you control your local authority, you are controlling the educational resources, you're controlling the justice system, not the justice system, but you're controlling the police in there, and you're informing the police in there. We need to get into local authority and start making those changes, because it doesn't matter whether the face of conservative is white, Asian, Chinese or black. That is a conservative agenda. We need a black agenda in every single borough. So I'm speaking to you as brothers and sisters because you're actually capable of making it happen. If you're a business owner, you can interface with Transition of the Black Pound, and they will also enable you to increase your custom base. They will actually enable you to increase your marketing with no greater spend. They will actually increase the awareness of your business as well. But what the agenda is at the end of the day is to create local councillors' ability to move in and work on our behalf, because we don't want to find ourselves in the same position that blacks are in the States, where they're being killed every other week by police and nobody cares. There is no empathy. So the way that the story is started off, to draw back to media, is a black man was killed. And you may see a picture of him and they've actually got his name. But the way of dehumanizing him is to say a black man was killed. We're not going to find ourselves in that state, because we're going to do something about it now whilst we have the opportunity. Forget all the intellectual masturbation. Forget the fact that we love to talk and take no action, or be on Facebook and like or waffle and post. It's a time for action. We live in the age of information, which is why nobody has any empathy for stupid people, because you must choose to be stupid. We don't have to go to libraries. We are separated from information by a search on a keyboard. Our solutions are as far away as a keyboard and Google search. So we don't have the excuse anymore. The organizations are here. Underneath this video, every single one of the organizations listed, and those not mentioned, will be there, but they're all solution makers. So have your ideas to add to the solutions, because they're going to work for you. Because when you go out your house, I don't care whether you're a Christian, I don't care whether you're a Muslim, I don't care whether you're a Buddhist or an atheist or a Satanist, you are black. And you are identified as black, and everything that comes against you is going to come against you as a black citizen. It's not going to come at you as anything else, and nobody cares what your beliefs are, because you are black. And in this country, you're seen as a guest. So have clarity about that, and know that you're a guest. Because I've been in a room where a politician talked about us, and I saw the guy that invited him, and he was smiling, and it was a nervous smile, because the guy referred to us in every other sentence as guest. We are the host nation and you are guests. So have clarity about your position in this country. And when you listen to your colleagues talk about voting out, they thought you would disappear overnight. Know that. The final component in this matrix of solutions for us is the justice system. And is one of the things where we're more harshly dealt with. Black convicts have always received harsher sentences than white convicts for exactly the same crimes. Now, we have no say in the justice system, largely because we've got no political influence or sway. The whole point of talking about education is so that we have clarity, because we're informed by us about what we need. The second tier is the media and our representation of us to the world. Now, when the world has a humanized view of us, they're never going to develop an Afrocentric view of us, but they see us as human beings because we have humanized ourselves through our own media. There's an empathy that comes with that we don't currently have. So when we receive these harsher sentences through the judiciary, there's no empathy whatsoever. England is a country which is based on very old rules. Everything started here. Long before slavery, English people murdered, raped, and misappropriated land from the Irish, the Scottish, and the Welsh, which is why behind closed doors they will speak about the English with hate and contempt. And if you ever see them in a rugby match or a football match after a can or six, they articulate that hate. So know that they are well versed in what they do. Our job is to socially condition them with our media. Our role in terms of business is to enter local authority with our pound so that they make a change. But what we do with that is we start fielding candidates that are speaking in Parliament. And then we start to affect the judiciary. The judiciary has to start working in our favour because our children are criminalised from the earliest instance. And were they not from a background that were, one, poor, don't make a mistake and think that class doesn't have a hell of a lot to do with how the children end up. And it goes from youth. Everything happens in a sequence of patterns. Whenever you see anything, there's always a pattern. And from the 50s all the way through, our pattern has been that we've been more harshly treated based upon the fact that there's less empathy. When there's less empathy, you know that whatever political wave is being operated, the race card is always an important one. It's always important to demonize us. Now, we had a window of about 12 years. We had a window, actually, of 15 years because of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, the heat went from us as blacks to Asians in this country because they were Muslims. I remember I was going to a club and we got stopped by police in Farringdon. And the policeman stuck his head in and we thought, this is it. They're going to go for the rigmarole. And the officer said, seatbelts, lads. Put your seatbelts on and push on. And we looked and we saw Asian gentlemen spread eagle over the car. And we said, it's their day. You know what, family? Our day is back. When you see our brothers and sisters in the States being killed on a weekly basis and nobody is upset other than their families, no, they were ahead of us by 10 years. They are now ahead of us by 5 years. Maximum. Best way. When you see the culture of this country that led towards a Brexit vote, no, we're not cute anymore. And now the magnifying glass is going to be on us. The magnifying glass will always come back to black for the mere fact that Africa is such a rich continent. If you want to create a narrative to invade Africa, you have to demonize the African diaspora all over the world. Because when you go into that country and you invade and you steal the natural resources, nobody's going to look at you crazy. They have been doing it for 500+ years. And in no incursion into Africa has anyone looked at them crazy. So it's great when events like the coup in Equatorial Guinea were halted and Simon Mann, an ex-SAS operative, were imprisoned, that Mark Thatcher was put under house arrest, and that whole operation was shut down. What it shows you is that we actually have the authority to do it. But it shows you that the political will is in England and they're backed up because they want the resources. We are demonized at a local judiciary level because Africa is so important. Every single black movement will be challenged by intelligence services. And this is the country that started every intelligence service. MI5 trained the CIA as a foreign spy service. MI6 was born out of that. We here have the power to control everything. The economics that we generate doesn't benefit us. So now we're talking about the judiciary and the effect that we can have on it. It starts at a macro level, but all of that affects foreign policy. So no more than you could be attacking the descendants of Khazarian Empire, the Ashkenazi Jews here, Eastern Europeans, then you could go and invade Israel. Because of their understanding of economics, the execution of economics, the harnessing of their own education, they control their communities. So it's a sin to even talk about them. So now let's look at the advancements that have happened in the last 8 years. You will be chastised for talking about homosexuals in a negative reference. That happened in the last 8 years because there was a political will and agenda. Because the gay male community got their act together, they organized and they executed. So now, you would never talk about the descendants of the Khazarian Empire, Eastern European Jews, the Ashkenazis, because you know there's power there. You have a unique window, an opportunity to make yourselves the next on that ladder. Don't talk about black people. We are the most powerful people on God's green earth. When they kidnapped us and took us to the islands, because slavery didn't start in the States. It was by the British and it was started in Barbados, where they wrote scripts and volumes about controlling us as slaves. And they interjected that into our cerebellums, into our central consciousness, for generation upon generation. So when you see some islands are easier than other islands, it's for a reason. But what we were was physically strong. We don't see the stories of the slave uprisings, but make you know, it was not just Jamaica that was an unruly island. It was not just Sierra Leone where slaves were dropped off. These things are omitted from history, and the greatest lie you can tell is by omission. We are powerful, so let's start to execute across the tiers, from education, through media, through politics, through the judiciary, but especially through economics, which is the greatest power, which envelops all of the above. Start today. You are smart. I don't know what your part is. You're a solution maker. You're looking at me thinking that I'm a waffler. Impress me. Show me what you can do. Contribute your part. There's a link below where we're looking for solutions to add to each of these areas. If you have it, if you work in local authority, law enforcement, education, and you're black, contribute, because we need it. It's called self-preservation.